How is it now, Aunty?
Yes, Aunty, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Jai Guruji, बहुत बहुत pranam. Aunty, if you are able to allow my video to be seen, यहाँ भी आप गुरुजी का दरबार देख सकते हैं, but it's up to you. Guruji is everywhere and this darbar is also very beautiful. Jai Guruji, thank you so much for welcoming me to read this very divine book. Thank you to Guruji for making Commander Sharma Uncle write this divine book. I have been reading it and listening to some of it and have learned so much already. So I'm very, very grateful and very honored to be reading a chapter. And I'll just share briefly the chapter which I was, blessed to be assigned to, So Satguru Pyara Mere Naal Hai, Journeys in Faith. I just lit up when I saw what my assignment was, because So Satguru Pyara Mere Naal Hai was really just defined the first at least 13 to 15 years of my known relationship with Guruji. Guruji knows and sees much more of our relationship with him over lifetimes, but with my human eyes and knowing what I was allowed to see, that phrase and that shabad was just been an anchor for me since the time I met Guruji in his physical form in 2001 until, he left his trola. It was just forever. I would not have gotten through my life crises and multiple of them without So Satguru Pyara Mere Naal Hai. And again, as it is written in the book, it's not that we have to think that, or it just is simply true. We just have to know that and remember that. And Guruji has given me plenty of darshans through jahan unhone mujhe ye bhi dikhaya or samjhaya hai that I'm always there. It's not that I leave or anything changes. Only we all get busy, we get turned away. If we don't remember Guruji, then we are not able to feel Guruji's presence. Here is Guruji's darbar for everybody to have additional darshan in every form that you are connected to. Jai Guruji. So again, as I said, with great joy and pleasure, I'll begin reading this chapter. Satguru Pyara Mere Naal Hai, Journeys in Faith. In 2004, my wife, two of my daughters, and I went on a vacation to Sri Lanka. We landed in Chennai to catch a flight to Colombo. An hour before the close of the airline counter, we submitted our passports and were issued boarding passes except Shubha. Exceptionally, her passport required an immigration check. We were directed to the immigration office in the city some 10 kilometers away. We had exactly 1 hour to get this check done and return to the airline counter. It was improbable to get the documentation done in time, but I trusted Guruji. Shubha and I dashed away to Chennai city with a prayer on our lips to Maharaj. Please don't let one stamp ruin this vacation. Please make it happen. Hardly had we got outside the airport that an auto driver asked us if we were headed for the immigration office in the city. Despite many red lights, the auto wala was agile and we reached the office in 20 minutes. Inside the office, the official concerned wanted to give me the lowdown on the regulations. I had only 40 minutes to get back to the airport, so I told him to get on with it. I was given a form, made triplicates at the shops downstairs and filled them up. Another 10 minutes gone. Next, 100 rupees had to be deposited in a bank about half a kilometer away. Mentally remonstrating to Maharaj at the bureaucratic hindrances, I left my daughter at the office and ran to the bank. The deposit was made in a jiffy and I ran back. Another 15 minutes gone. I got back the passport and we came out of the office to find the auto waiting for us. There were barely 10 minutes left for us to get back to the airport. Factoring in minutes frittered away in the inescapable minutiae of interactions between autos, offices, banks, and airport officials. We didn't get a single red light. Within 5-7 minutes, I saw the Airport Authority of India signboard looming before us. Incredulous, I asked my daughter if we were near the airport already. We could see the aircraft. We were there. We rushed inside. Just in time? Not really. At the airline counter, the manager was asking the girl manning the desk to close as it was already time. But as he said this, he saw Shubha and me rushing in. He confirmed our identities with my wife, asked the girl to reopen the counter, check the baggage, and get us in. What was miraculous was that it had taken us 20 minutes to go to the immigration office and less than 10 minutes to come back. I still cannot believe it happened. Who else could have made it happen but Maharaj? For Guruji, time and space are immaterial. He is omnipresent. He can position you anywhere, anytime. He doesn't let his devotees down. In Sri Lanka, we stayed at a hotel in a remote place. Flipping open a travel brochure, we learned that this place was quite close to where the demon king Ravana had held Devi Sita captive. We were right next to the Ashok Vatika. We saw the spot where one of the beautiful episodes, Sundarkand, of Lord Hanuman's visit to Devi Sita was enacted, after which he burnt down the golden city of Lanka. The landscape matched the description in the Ramayana. Part of the soil was blackened as if still smarting. Part of it, a meter away, was normal. Water was flowing in the middle of the garden. Guruji had turned our vacation into a pilgrimage. Guruji loves the idea of his Sangat enjoying and doing well in life. To come to him, we would dress as if going to a function. That would make him really happy. He is like a mother who finds joy in her children's happiness. It was also customary for devotees to take Guruji's permission before they went out of the country. We would seek his permission if we could go to a certain place. Usually, he would smile and give his blessings. That was the way for me as well. He'd often say, Eshkar, or some other words full of blessings. After joining the American firm in 2005, I had to go to the USA. It was going to be the first of my many visits to the USA. I came to Guruji with great excitement for taking his permission. He looked pleased, I could make out. He looked at me and, after a pause, asked me to bring 2 bottles of vitamin E tablets. I couldn't believe that Guruji was asking me to do something personally. I was elated, but I only folded my hands and acknowledged the order with Ji Guruji. As I was walking away, Guruji added that the tablets had to be of the latest date of manufacture. I turned back, folded my hands, and acknowledged with Ji Guruji. I was on 7th heaven that Maharaj was making me do something for him. Obviously, this was his way to bless me. Though it was official work that took me to the USA, getting the vitamin E tablets became the predominant task. When I landed in Washington, D.C., an American colleague came to receive me and wanted us to get to work right away. I forestalled him, telling him that I needed to buy 2 bottles of vitamin E tablets of the latest date of manufacture. He said, "Sure, but why?" I told him that it was way more important than anything else. We went to a medical shop and picked up these bottles. It turned out to be a great trip. I learned how the organization worked, made many friends, understood the functions of the workplace, and returned. On the coming Saturday, my regular day of going for darshan, I had the vitamin E bottles with me. I walked up to Guruji and presented the bottles to him. Maharaj briefly inspected the bottles and inquired if they indeed bore the latest date of manufacture. I could simply nod in affirmation. He then asked me to put them in his room. This was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Nobody went inside Guruji's room without his permission, but it was going to be my day to receive this exceptional blessing. Since I used to sit by that door during darshans, I was familiar with the beautiful fragrance that emanated from it. I opened the door, went inside, and I was in heaven. The aura of that place, the elegance, the simplicity, and beauty were unbelievable. I was supposed to just leave the tablets there and step out. But I lingered, sitting with my back to the wall, facing Guruji's bed, just taking it all in with deep breaths. I was absorbing the very air which Maharaj breathed. Worried that I would be found out for being greedy, I bowed out reluctantly, as if I had taken something special that was not my due, and quietly sat in my corner place. It felt so special. Guruji made all of us feel equally special and unique. We are essentially nothing, not even a speck of dust in the cosmic vastness. For the God of gods to make us feel wanted, that too with a personal touch, was amazing. Guruji made his Sangat feel as if they were the only ones for him. Guruji is on call all the time for each and every one of his Sangat. And that is why he insists upon us connecting with him directly, not collectively. Please don't connect to him as a member of a group. That includes social media groups as well. There are no firsts among Sangat either. Have a one-to-one connection with nobody in between. I got another chance to go to the USA and again sought Guruji's blessings. My wife was standing behind me as I was speaking. Guruji looked at her, then at me, and asked if I had taken her to the USA. Before I could respond, my wife said, complainingly, that I had never taken her with me to the USA. I went red in the face. I mumbled the excuse that this was a business trip, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. Guruji looked at me and said, why don't you take her? I said I would. Guruji then looked at my wife and said, he will take you this time. The trip was for a short duration and there were many things to take care of. And to be honest, I did not take Guruji's words seriously. I did not take her. I came back, and when I was in Maharaj's presence, the first thing Guruji asked me was, did you take her with you? I had no excuse. And before I could say something, my wife told him that I had not. Guruji firmly directed me to do so the next time. He then turned to my wife and told her that I would definitely take her to the USA next time. The next trip occurred only after Guruji's Mahasamadhi. Though the visit involved only a 2-day stay abroad, I took my wife along with me. We traveled together and came back to his presence, this time in front of his Samadhi at Bade Mandir. With teary eyes and folded hands, I told Guruji, Maharaj, I have taken my auntie to the USA. I had the feeling that Guruji was happy I had complied with his hukum. This is true that Guruji Maharaj has taken Mahasamadhi, but very rightfully, The Sangat continues to connect and interact with him just like they used to do before Mahasamadhi with a living Guru. That is because he is very much present. We never refer to him in the past tense. We never garland his Swarup. He is forever. And our relationship, the divine, sacrosanct relationship of Guru and Chela, is permanent too. It is timeless. It is devoid of everything else that you see, because what you see is not the reality. It is a perception of reality. The soul-to-soul connection with Maharaj is the only reality. How Maharaj blesses us is difficult to comprehend. Today, when I look back, 2 of my daughters are in the USA, and I feel this is linked with Guruji's command to take my wife to that country. He saw our entire karmic context and unlocked its doors so that we can have the best possible life. A happy woman at home is an imperative part of that unlocking process. While on marital relationships, this experience added to my personal understanding, which is derived from our scriptures. Wherever a woman is respected and worshipped, that is where the gods live. Wherever they are not respected, all actions result in failure. You must keep your spouse, your auntie, ahead of you to ensure a smooth flow of blessings from Guruji Maharaj. I vividly recall watching some members of the Sangat requesting Maharaj to bless their lockets with his Swarup on them. Of course, Maharaj happily obliged them. In December 2006, we too got 2 gold lockets made and presented them to Guruji to bless them before wearing. Maharaj took the lockets in his hand and asked whom these were for. I replied that one was for me and the other for my son-in-law. Maharaj immediately asked, "What about Aunty?" I was stumped. I should have known better. How could I even think of receiving blessings ahead of my wife? Embarrassed and at a complete loss of words, I could only look down and keep quiet. There was no excuse. Nevertheless, Maharaj blessed the lockets and handed them back to me. We returned home and decided not to wear them till additional lockets for my wife and daughters were also blessed by Guruji. That took a while. It was only by April 2007 that we could organize 4 more lockets identical to the 2 blessed earlier by Maharaj. I took them to Guruji and received his blessings. Then the entire family wore them together. Let me get back to our USA connection. I believe Guruji wanted the USA to be part of our future plans. For this association to be a blessed one, my going there alone wasn't good enough. My wife had to be a part of that association. We had to be blessed together as a couple. I know my wife loves to travel and see places. That makes her really happy. I also know that whatever makes her happy also makes Guruji happy. When Maharaj is happy, we receive his immense blessings. On a few trips to the USA, my wife and I have had telling experiences of Guruji's protection. Returning back from one such trip, I felt heavy vibrations coming from the left wing of the aircraft as it was taxiing out of Newark Airport. The aircraft was stopped, attended to, serviced, and we traveled comfortably after. I was not worried. I knew that I was in the lap of my Guru. He always holds me like a mother. On another occasion, as we were about to take off in an Airbus 320, the plane's electricals powered down. This was a complete shutdown. The thought came to mind that had this happened just a few minutes later, we'd have had a dead aircraft in the air. Sometime later, power was restored. Everything was checked and the plane made flight ready. The aircraft flew like a hawk. Again, I was protected, as was everybody else, since I was in the lap of my guru, not just sitting in the aircraft. On a recent trip in the year 2020, we had to stay put in the USA for 5 months because of COVID restrictions. We took one of the earliest flights back that we could. On the ground at Newark, the aircraft systems stopped functioning, needing a complete system reboot, as you would do for a desktop computer. That took 2.5 hours. We took off and headed into extremely rough weather, something that I hadn't experienced in a long time, even though I travel a lot. My wife was with me, and we looked at each other, and all I told her was, "Your children are well settled, and we are in the arms of our Guru. Let's just go to sleep. We will see if we wake up. We will see if we wake up, great. If we don't, great." Normally, she and I don't sleep well on flights. That day, 8 hours of horrible weather could not keep us awake. We slept, and when we woke up, we were near Afghanistan, less than an hour and a half away from landing in Delhi. I looked at her and said, "Here we are. We don't fly in an aircraft. We travel in our Guruji's lap. He just holds us tight in his arms and takes us from place A to place B." Of course, we were also unvaccinated and exposed ourselves to fellow travelers in air and on ground at Newark and New Delhi. No problems. The Shabad Satguru Pyara Meri Naal Hai encapsulates my belief. The Shabad is a commitment from Guruji himself. It means that loving Guruji is always with me. It leaves no room for discussion or argumentation. If this is something we can keep in our hearts once and for all, then we have nothing else to think, talk, or care about. We do not have to ask. We have to simply believe in Maharaj. It's not a question of our praying to him to be with us. That would, in my opinion, be a mistake. We have to believe that he is with us. In fact, we insist he is with us. Guruji has shown many times, in times of need and even in ordinary times, that he keeps a watch over us. During the satsangs at Empire Estate, for example, many devotees would want to continue basking in his presence. They did not want to leave because being with Guruji was an addiction. He made us feel high. I too would try and prolong my stay at Empire Estate as much as I could. I'd hang around even after Langar and Agya and try to sneak back into a place where I thought Guruji wouldn't see me. It never worked though. I would try to hide behind the pillar that stood on the side of the entrance to the Empire Estate Ground Hall. From there was no clear line of sight to Guruji. One or the other sevaks would announce that Gurgaon Sangat had been given permission to go home. Yet I'd pretend that this instruction was not for me. I'd go behind that pillar and try to sit down. Even before I could bend my knees, I'd hear, "Commander, go home." I wouldn't even look towards Maharaj, just fold my hands and slip out, pretending this never happened. I tried this maneuver twice and gave up. It didn't work. Guruji keeps his eyes on us. Guruji had given us 4 photographs after my praying to him quietly, as narrated in an earlier chapter. Each was with a member of the family. During our Sri Lanka visit, our youngest daughter Ila had kept a swaroop in her purse. Back at home, after the trip, we slept early. The next morning, we saw her run out of her room, out of the main door, shrieking, and come back inside even before we could intervene. It was around 9 a.m. We wanted to know what happened when we met for breakfast. She told us that the night before she had thrown the papers from her purse into the dustbin. Unwittingly, Guruji's Swaroop had also got thrown out. The rest of the piled up waste had gone into the bin on top, which my wife kept outside to be picked up by society staff. 3 amazing things happened. That morning, the pickup man did not come at his usual time of 8 a.m. He did not arrive till my daughter had realized what she had done. Also, though she had dumped the waste at the bottom of the bin, she found Guruji's Swaroop right at the top. She did not have to search for it. And the third thing, the garbage man was approaching the place as she was picking up the Swaroop from the bin. Another few seconds, and the Swaroop would have gone with the waste. If that had happened, we would not have been able to forgive ourselves ever. It didn't, because Guruji wouldn't let it happen. Guruji's Swaroops are a manifestation of his presence. We had been given 2 larger Swaroops that we had brought home. Once, my uncle came from Meerut to visit us. He had Guruji's darshan and he wanted a Swaroop. My wife had kept one of the big Swaroops under a newspaper in the shelf. She decided to take it out and give it to him. It had a yellow turmeric sacred mark, Pitya, on it. Back in Meerut, my uncle gave the Swaroop to be set in a frame. A few days later, he called me to say that the person who was framing the Swaroop had lost it. We were now doubly sad. We had given away his Swaroop that was blessed for us, and now that had been lost. We thought to ourselves that it wasn't time for a relative to have Guruji's Swaroops, which were, after all, given by Guruji himself. Many months later, it was Diwali, and we were cleaning the entire house. It was time for the newspaper on the shelf to be replaced. As my wife lifted the newspaper, she found the same Swaroop present. It had the identical yellow turmeric mark. She came rushing to tell me. We called up my uncle to reassure him that the Swaroop was back with us. Such is our Guruji's grace. Do we even realize who we are talking about? We are ordinary human beings, full of imperfections and prone to making mistakes. But he does not let his devotees fall from his grace. If need be, our ear will be twisted and we will be given hard lessons a couple of times, but it will be done with a mother's touch. Our mistakes will be corrected lovingly and caringly. Guruji's universe is reformative, not punitive. Guruji is ours. He is with us all the time. He is holding our hand. All we have to do is trust him. If we trust Guruji is ours, then Guruji is ours. If we don't, Guruji is not ours. Our belief and trust in Guruji is the key to our connection with Maharaj. Believe in him, believe in your prayers, and he is all yours. Jai Guruji. Thank you again so much, Guruji, for this opportunity, this seva, this honor, this blessing, this great divine privilege of reading this book that you have had written by Commander Sharma Uncle Ji. Thank you so much, Uncle, and for this community uncle and auntie who are organizing and facilitating, Suresh uncle and auntie here, everybody who's creating the community to allow us to listen and to learn and to keep learning in Guruji's classes endlessly. I'm so grateful. And I'll say that while reading these pages, yesterday many things brought laughter to me. Today I was on the verge of tears, and it reminded me of so many satsangs and connection and meaning, and I had to stop myself from interrupting the flow. But Guruji charges the words when they are read out loud in his presence with Sangat, and he was producing a lot of connections, thoughts, responses. But I will hold back and just check if Commander Uncle is here, if he would like to add anything about his beautiful book. I think that would be wonderful for everyone to hear. Otherwise, I just turn it back to you, Aunty. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji, Aunty. Very, very beautifully read. Actually, Commander Sharma Uncle is not logged in today, so sorry about that. But Aunty, as you mentioned, we could really hear a few satsangs that you got reminded, because certainly every time I hear this book or read it, I do remember a few things and a few satsangs of my own. But today, if you could share a few with us, it would be great, Aunty.
Yeah, I'll, Jason, I पढ़ रही थी, so many things were coming to mind. And so right now I'll just start with, by Guruji's permission, Guruji's agya, wherever it happens. It is so true, like Uncle said in the book, who enters Guruji Darbar, when they enter, and when they're actually given admission, as I think is shared in the earlier chapters of this book, when Guruji said to uncle and later on to auntie ki aap is college mein admit ho gaye ho, that is a unique and personal journey. Uncle has mentioned that he has, no altar in his home and feels no need for that kind of a ritual or a singular place, that Guruji is everywhere in the temple of the heart all the time. And I'm of the same, like that was so wonderful and inspiring to hear. And here we have Guruji's Swaroop in every location possible, because we are only human. At the same time, I know and feel that Guruji's presence is with me at all times. And yet I love to look around and see Guruji's smile, Guruji's eyes, Guruji's light, Guruji's grace. As whatever thought process is happening, to just let it go and be in the presence of the divine and completely surrender. This book answered so many of my questions about what does it mean to surrender. So whether it is a rich man or a king who has all of his desires fulfilled and then he is happy, or it is one who has no desires and so has no wants or unfulfilled needs, and that person is happy. And I just feel so, so blessed to be reading this book that Guruji wanted out in the world. And there is a part of it that is also inspiring around how Uncle shares that he, did not identify as a writer, but Guruji created a whole community to make Guruji's messages, lessons out there in the world for his students, for his Sangat, for his children to learn, that Guruji is the doer. And then yesterday I'll share ki as I was even preparing and rereading, some of the chapters of the book, my day was filled with Sangat. Shuru mein uncle ka phone aaya to, just prep for the reading. At later on, so it is, the chapter references Diwali. So I'll just share the satsang that is emerging right now is on exactly Diwali day. So I live in Brooklyn in New York, and exactly on Diwali day, on Choti Diwali 23rd or Main Diwali 24th, I don't know of a satsang which is happening close by, like either in Brooklyn or Manhattan. Obviously, it will be happening in the main mandirs, but those are farther away. It takes about at least 2 hours to get there by multiple trains, cars, buses, cabs, which is doable, of course, for Guruji's grace. Anything is possible. He gets us there. But Guruji has also created ease and access to him. And so Guruji has made satsang gardens blossom all over the world. Ki aapke paas aap kabhi bhi Guruji ke saath you can gather. So just this message of, is there going to be, should there be, shall I host this Diwali satsang? And for whatever reason, my reticence, am I ready? Am I capable? Really, the questions are about my own capabilities, not about whether there should be a beautiful Diwali satsang. Of course, there should be. But whenever there is doubt in the way, it is self and ego rather than merging with the divine and surrender. And so yesterday, one auntie called me and she said that she is, hosting a satsang in an older people's home to bring Guruji's lessons to them on Diwali, which was so inspiring for me to hear. And she said, can you make the playlist for it? I've only met this auntie once, but I was laughing to myself at Guruji's ways that Guruji then had me sit down and create specifically what Aunty had requested, a Diwali satsang playlist. There are no coincidences. So I thought, okay, Guruji perhaps is saying he wants this satsang to happen and he's already made me make the playlist, I say, 10 days in advance. So then I kept reading the chapter, and when Uncle referenced Diwali in the chapter, again, what are the odds, right? There are no coincidences. So the book was written a while back. I happened to be assigned, one would think randomly, this reading today, this chapter today, but there are no coincidences. The reference to Diwali, it being my most favorite eternal Shabad, when my mom was in the hospital on life support, we would just drive to the hospital every day, just listening to So Sadguru Pyara Mere Naal Hai, which was the message of ultimate surrender for us, that in that quarantined ICU where we could not touch her and we could see her and we could do nothing, that Guruji goes where no one can go. Guruji is with the bhakt, whether they are, praying or in an altar or completely unconscious of even where their own body is. Even there, Guruji is with his bhakt. It was a terrifying but faith solidifying experience for us to witness that, to witness Guruji's bhakts, my, earthly mom, be in the grip of death, and to know that Guruji took her there, held her there for as long as he needed to, taught her in that experience whatever he needed to, then brought her back, gave her back to us and the rest of the world and Guru Parivar to then learn whatever lessons he has taught. And that is a glimpse of surrender. My mom, always says that God is all merciful, but the path to God is merciless. And so I was, again, in reading this book and seeing how, Uncle's daughter had suffered through asthma and eczema, through not being able to breathe and not being able to sit in one's own skin. I think we can only imagine what that is for if someone hasn't experienced it. And then when he went to Guruji, all thoughts of asking for something specific like a healing, he didn't even do that. And Guruji blessed and gave so much more. Our family's experience was also like that. We went there for supposedly, my mom seeking a cure for the skin condition I have, which is actually completely painless. Vitiligo, which is, known as leukoderma in India, but usme koi dard nahi hota hai. So, the skin, it is neither painful nor does the skin, rupture. There is just absolutely no physical pain, internal pain, external, nothing. So it is just an illusion. Like is said in the book, there is reality, and the real reality is only soul-to-soul connection. The rest is perception of reality. So Guruji gave us this imaginary disease that would become a pathway to seeking a guru, to seeking someone who could heal what multiple doctors we had gone to could not heal. And once we got there, I would like to share that vitiligo is very much still on my skin, and it has shifted shape and form. And, it used to be on my eyelids, and sometimes people would say, ew, what's that? Oh, I touched it. Yuck, that's a disease. I touched it. I've had those experiences also. And then sometimes people would say, oh, it's like you have natural eyeshadow. It's like naturally God has painted you with makeup. Or somebody would see the spots on my legs and say, it's like you have a natural like cheetah print. So, it is all in the eye of the beholder. It is all about perception of reality. It's not a real reality. And you can either believe the negative things that people perceive you as, or you can believe the positive, or you can just forget everything and surrender your whole body and life and everything to Guruji. So I have this other condition in which I repeatedly get ovarian cysts. And I've had a couple of surgeries, and one of them was, quite extreme. Like, actually, at the time that my mom was in the hospital, my back started to hurt a lot. And I thought that it's only hurting because I'm sleeping in the hospital and, mattress and bed and lay and bow. But for a few months, I had started having a sharp pain, which I ignored. The pain increased so much, but my family was in such a dire state that after that 1 month in the ICU, life support, and my mom coming back 1 month in the regular ward, she still had a tube through her neck. She couldn't talk. So she would just, look or write messages. I thought that there was no bandwidth for our family to think about one more person being sick. So I suppressed it. But I did not, that was in many ways, we may not as humans have the capacity to handle everything because we are so human and we have our limits. We have a finite body, we have our finite limits. But for Guruji, nothing is impossible. If I had just turned with faith and trust to Guruji and said, Guruji, we have this problem and now I am your problem, who knows what would have happened? What did happen is that he didn't say anything to anyone. Pain increased a lot. Finally, I actually got worried that something pretty dangerous is happening. So I, requested and I confessed finally on my last day there visiting. I told my dad, and he, moved mountains quickly and used a lot of help from people to get me an MRI quickly. And we found that the pain, though it was happening in my back, was actually not in my back. I had multiple. Previously in life, I would have only had one ovarian cyst at a time. I had multiple cysts on both ovaries. And they were quite large, like 4 to 5 centimeters each. So I actually required immediate surgery. So I told the doctor, but the information, the doctor told me, you either need surgery or you need a very extreme medication immediately. And I was so overwhelmed and frozen, I didn't do anything. I just went back to the US. I was in a program for getting certified as a coach. And if I didn't get back and finish, my mom was healing now, and then my sister was coming, so I was leaving. So I came back and, went through my weekend cohort. At some point, the pain started increasing and got so bad that I was 24/7 in pain. I had to go to the emergency room, and the cyst, which had been maybe 4 centimeters, maybe 5 centimeters, was now 6 centimeters. It had gone past the point. 5 is the point at which you really need surgery already. It was now 6. I was in constant, deathly, lethal pain, all the time. I would just be curled over in a ball morning and night. I couldn't sleep through the night. So friends and family started coming and staying with me. And then again, who knows, our delays, And then finally, the situation just escalated. I did not take immediate action again. I did not surrender to whatever was Guruji's will to have immediate surgery. I resisted, I protested, the situation got worse. And then I flew back to be with my family to say that I'll get surgery around there. But I went back on April 12th. This is in 2019, and it was Baisakhi. I was initially supposed to land a few days later, but because of my health situation, I went a few days earlier. And I landed. Miraculously, when I went to the airport, I reached the airport, the flight in a wheelchair. I could not walk by that point. And I prayed that I would make it on the flight. It's a nearly 15 to 20-hour journey. And the pain would be so excruciating. I wondered how I would manage on the flight all by myself. And there's nothing you can do medically once you're in the air. And those painkillers were not even effective on me. The pain was so bad, even though I was every 8 hours on painkillers to try to avert it. But I got there by a manageable level of pain. At no point did the pain threshold cross over until I, literally wanted to die. I made it there. to our family's home in the Middle East. I reached home and the complete environment was transformed. Guruji ki sangat ki tayari ho rahi thi, satsang ki, Baisakhi satsang ki tayari ho rahi thi. It was so festive. The home was filled with joy and sangat and shabads and blessings and vibrations. Guruji just planted me in there. The next 24 hours were another miracle. I was just serving and sitting in Baisakhi satsang. We were all wearing yellow. We are celebrating, the harvest and the joy and Guruji's grace, the harvest of Guruji's grace and blessings upon our lives. And I remember I was dancing in the Baisakhi satsang, and it was like a magical, pain-free day. It was just complete magic. And then we said, "Okay, kal jayenge hospital. We will get back to all of this tomorrow. Medical later, satsang first." The next morning, my sister and I went to the hospital. She accompanied me just to say, what should we do now? Okay, we probably need a minor surgery like a laparoscopy. And the doctors all, as they did the ultrasound, they all looked very concerned. They all stood around me. That cyst was now 8 centimeters. It was the size of a grapefruit. And they said it is infected. That is why the pain has increased so much. All the organs around it were infected. And I was very close to septicemia. This is what the doctor told me. I was very close to blood poisoning. You cannot imagine how a person who was in this state was dancing in Baisakhi without painkillers. This is Guruji's grace. And so then the situation turned very dire quickly, or it had been dire, but Guruji was still protecting me. And they said it's actually so infected and dangerous now because the septicemia or infection will spread if we cut into you now. We need to admit you immediately and put you on antibiotics to control the infection. And when it's controlled, then we can do surgery. And we will now have to do open abdominal, a much more major surgery. And the whole thing was a complete shock. But what I had gone for like a normal checkup to find out when I should come back for surgery, I never left the hospital. I was admitted right away in the clothes I was wearing. I had no hospital bag. I didn't even have any painkillers on me. And then I turned out to be allergic to penicillin. So when they gave me a test sample of the antibiotic, and penicillin is the main one they use, my skin flared up. 9 baje se 4 baj gaye, and in the next several hours, one after the other, Guruji, I turned out they tried 4 antibiotics, and I turned out to have a skin reaction to all of them. And finally, the doctor said, we have no choice. We just have to give her the one she's least allergic to. And mind you, the doctor surgeon was also a Sangat member. So we had great faith that at least on that side, still it's a foreign country, it's the Middle East. And even on that side, somebody who's holding your hand is Guruji's Sangat. So Guruji is ever present in all of it. And she said, we'll just go with the one she's least allergic to. And side mein EpiPen rakha hai. If she ends up, once we start the antibiotics, if there is a breathing problem or a reaction, we'll just give the EpiPen and deal with it that way. So how dire things became that I really could not, the human mind cannot process these things. Whatever had to happen, happened. The decisions I could not make were made for me. I had the surgery. A couple of organs that had gotten infected and absorbed by the cyst also had to be removed. One ovary, one fallopian tube had to be removed as well. And then I came out of that hospital on medication. The medication and everything I had tried to avoid taking. But again, I made no decisions. Guruji led the way. All the decisions were made. I emerged. My health is much better now than it has been in 20 years. I had suffered from that disease without medication. And however Guruji had to get me back on medication, Guruji did it. And I will tell you that very explicitly, many years ago, over 10, 15 years ago, I had a dream. I saw Guruji, and Guruji in a small room, he's sitting. One person is sitting on his right, doing his like Haath Dabana, that kind of seva. And I'm sitting on his left and I'm pressing his hand on the left. And even at that time, some, drama was going on about cyst and surgery. This was my second surgery. I'd had one before. So Guruji just turned and looked at me and he said, "Ye mera cyst hai." That's it. He said to me, this is my cyst. Guruji, it's not my body. It's Guruji's body. It's not my life. It's Guruji's life. So I have to do nothing. I have to make no decisions. I just have to, I think Guruji just teaches me that there is no I. Whatever Guruji wants done to or with or through this body and this life, it will be done. So, Jai Guruji, I just cannot have enough words, enough of an expression of gratitude. Surrender is a concept which is even beyond the human mind. But like Uncle said so beautifully in his book, if Guruji wants surrender, my surrender, only Guruji can give that. I am nobody to surrender. It's only Guruji's will, Guruji's grace, Guruji's meher that makes everything happen. And yesterday I must have had contact with 7 Sangat members, where Guruji just connected all the dots of his grace and brought me back to grace and faith when I was having a tough couple of days, actually specifically around health. I have a new cyst, I was having a lot of nausea and back pain, and Guruji just gave me Sangat, 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 Seva, 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 divine blessings, divine blessings. So everything is Guruji's, this life, this body, this family, this Sangat, this home, this satsang. Thank you, Guruji, so much for the opportunity to remember your meher, your infinite grace and blessings upon me, upon all of us, and for connecting all of us. Thank you so much again for this book, for giving me so many messages and wisdoms. Thank you, Guruji and Uncle for being an instrument for surrendering to the will of Guruji, so that we may all learn. Thank you so much. Jai Guruji. Shukrana, Guruji. Shukrana, Shukrana, Shukrana.
Thank you, Aunty. And I have no words, actually. It's one of the best blessings that we can get during times of distress is Guruji Seva, because that completely takes your mind off those issues at that time. And then it's Guruji's love that you get engulfed in very nicely. So thank you so much, Guruji, for taking good care. And no words. I have a small satsang only to share on the coincidence. And so Sadguru Pyara Mere Naal Hai, because when you were talking about this Shabad and how Guruji was always there with you, I recently had a medical issue, and just before I was entering into the OT, this was the Shabad that was played, and it's just a miracle how he shows his presence at that very time when you need it. And by Guruji's grace, I came out completely fine. So बहुत बहुत शुक्राना गुरुजी का. And today was not my seva day, but Archie Aunty, who conducts the session regularly, she requested me at the very last minute, and I stepped in. So this is also not a coincidence that So Sadguru Pyara Mere Naal Hai was the chapter being read, and I was this is the second time I'm going through this book. Once we did it with Commander Uncle when he was reading it, and I can relate with every word, every chapter, every satsang that has been said in this book. So it's very close to my heart too. And today was no coincidence that I've also landed up for Seva for this very particular thing, and for this Shabad that has played such an important role in my life. So it's his beautiful ways. There are no words. You can just, the level of amazement just keeps increasing with your journey with him. That's all I can say. Thank you, Aunty. Thank you very, very much for a beautiful reading and for sharing your satsangs. Sangaji, will now, Aunty, if you have anything else to share, you can go ahead. Otherwise, we can conclude the session now.
I'll just share one tiny thing, Ekta Aunty, that when I went into surgery, because you shared your experience, it is a terrifying experience. And I had the kind of surgery where they just gave me half body anesthesia. So I was awake during surgery. And I was awake when I heard the doctor cut into me and say like, oh my God, this is horrible. So I heard all of that. And And the doctor surgeon auntie, the primary doctor surgeon auntie who had, brought me along this journey so far, and she came near me in the beginning before surgery started, and she played Shabads. And I'm sure that So Sadguru Pyara Mere Naal Hai was a part of that too. And because I was awake, I kept trying to, the power of my mind, and I mean my strong, stubborn mind, I kept trying to see, especially because I could hear the doctors discussing, I kept trying to see what can we see. Obviously, there are no mirrors positioned as such, but I tried to use the power of my mind to just give me a vision to see what it is they were seeing and doing inside my body. And when I closed my eyes and pictured, a TV screen appeared in front of me. And then on the TV screen, first it went from static, and then the image slowly transformed into the image of ocean waves. So Guruji just told me to calm down. It is, it is infinite and unknowable. What they were doing, I don't know. It doesn't matter. What I was trying to see was not necessary for me to see. But it was not as, it was not like seeing a vision of Guruji, but I have a deep, long connection with the ocean, also as a divine form, and as this vast form of Mother Earth that can absorb anything, that can heal anything, that can transform anything, and that can take your little pain and whatever it is, and just dissolve it. It can take your saltwater tears and dissolve them in the ocean of salt and healing. Because salt is also what stings on the wound, but it also heals the wound. And that's what Guruji showed me, as a vision of the ocean when I was trying to see what was happening. So just wanted to, that's the image that came to my mind when we talked about going into the OT. So Shukrana Guruji for, again, speaking in many languages, showing your visions in whatever language your human understands, your child, as Uncle has said in the book, the customized lessons. No two people have the same experiences, no two people have the same answers, but whatever it is that Guruji wants you to see, feel, experience, learn, it is a very highly attuned and customized lesson or answer or gift or healing for you in a way that you will understand it and you can receive it. And I'm so grateful to Guruji for so much attention and care and love and presence that he gives in that way. Bahut, bahut, bahut shukrana, Guruji. He's also the one who taught me to say shukrana. It's a long satsang, I won't repeat it, but he gave me something great. And I went to a satsang with gratitude in my heart and flowers, but I did not say the words. And that night he came in my dream darshan and stretched out and he said lovingly, laughingly, ek shukrana bhi nahi keh sakti thi. So it's very important for me to say Shukrana, Guruji, Shukrana for your healing, Shukrana for making not my cyst yours, but giving me your cyst to work with, to learn from, whatever it is. I don't know what is me and what is you at this point, but जो भी है आपका दिया हुआ है, आप ही का था शुरू से, अभी भी आपका है, आप ही में merge होगा. बहुत बहुत शुक्राना. Thank you, Guruji. Thank you, Aunty. Thank you, Sangat ji.
And it's all his creations, na? Everything is his creation. So you can see him in anything and everything. Sab kuch Guruji ka hai, hum bhi, and sab kuch. I mean, ye puri kainat hi Guruji ki hai. So, and that is very true. How we want to see him and where we want to see him and which form we want to see him. He's amazing. He shows us exactly in that form. Exactly. So
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful reading, Aunty. Shukrana Sangat ji for joining in. We'll now conclude the session. You can unmute yourself and take Agya. Shukrana. Shukrana, Aunty. Shukrana, Guruji.
जय गुरुजी, शुक्राना गुरुजी, आज्ञा गुरुजी.
आज्ञा दे गुरुजी. जय गुरुजी, शुक्राना महाराज.
शुक्राना गुरुजी.
जय गुरु.
जय गुरुजी, शुक्राना गुरुजी, अनंतम शुक्राना.
शुक्राना गुरुजी, शुक्राना गुरुजी, शुक्राना गुरुजी.